Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Off the Bench podcast. My name is Robert Sellers. Tonight, I am in the glorious city of Atlanta, Georgia, on this wonderful Sunday evening at my grandparents' house, actually my grandmother's backyard, which is a fantastic place. It's a great backyard. It's much more striking during the daytime. If you can tell, I know that the lighting's a little weird in here, but I have a sign here. It says House of Davis because this is the House of Davis. And if you know, you know. That's all I'll say. Tonight we're going to be covering the resume rankings for college football. Not power rankings, but resume rankings. Of course, the college football playoff rankings are going to release this Tuesday night. I think that it'd be fun to sort of talk about it on Sunday night, what I think the rankings should be, what my system has them as, and also maybe preview a little bit of what I think the committee might do themselves. And of course, these are the last regular season rankings of the 2025 college football season. Wow, the season is flying by. I mean, it flown by, rather. My goodness, it's a little bit late. But it's been a phenomenal year, and the rankings show that. A lot of crazy stuff has happened this season. But this is where we are. We are in week 14. We are about to have rivalry weekend, and there is still so much shuffling left to happen, still so much amazing college football goodness that we have left to see. I can't wait for it. Week 14 is going to be so cool. There's going to be so many good games. But before I start previewing those games, I need to have my rankings done for going into that weekend. So that's basically what I'm doing tonight. If you're new to the show and you do not know how I do my rankings, I do them strictly off of a system that I developed, which only looks at who you've beaten and who you've lost to. These are not power rankings, which basically means I could have a team that I think is the third best in college football, but resume wise, they might be eighth or ninth because they haven't won or lost to a certain amount of teams that have helped their resume as much. So this is literally strictly, there's no eye test. There's no bias baked into this. It is just the system that I created at the beginning of the year and the teams that it has spat out numerically. And you'll see what I mean in a second when I start getting into the rankings. So I won't delay this any longer. The number one team, I'll start at number one and I'll work all the way back through the ranks, of course. But starting with number one, the number one team, in my opinion, in college football right now, leading into week 14, resume wise, is the Texas A&M football Aggies. This is a great team. Of course, everybody knows they had a huge game against Texas on the road. I'll talk about it at the end of their look through. But A&M's had a great year, undefeated in the SEC. This is the best start to a year that Texas A&M has ever had, at least since 1991. Definitely their best year in the SEC. Their defense looks great. Their linebackers are crazy good. Their secondary is getting better and better as the year goes on. They're getting more and more pressure. And Marcel Reed was my main doubt going into this year, if I'm being completely honest, was Marcel Reed and his ability to win games down the stretch. And he just did that against South Carolina. Do I think that A&M can win the national championship? I'm still not quite a believer yet. I know it's crazy to say, but they have a huge game against Texas next week. They could completely prove me wrong. This is what they've done this year, resume wise. Of course, the biggest wins being at Notre Dame, at LSU, and at Missouri. And then they've just stayed consistent, winning each of the games that have been placed in front of them, which no other SEC team has been able to do this season. They are not super far ahead of all the other teams in the top four, though. I'm just going to say that because you'll see it in a second. 54 is the total number of points that A&M has accumulated this year per my system. They have the opportunity to pick up a lot more on the road at Texas. That would be a huge boost to their resume if they were able to pick that one up. But if they lose it, they only lose 1 point. It's really not that big of a deal. They probably just won't be ranked number one anymore. But this A&M team is locked into the playoffs, which is crazy. I never would have thought going into this year that Texas A&M would be undefeated with their playoff chances sealed going into the Texas game. Like I never would have believed that. I thought they were going to lose to Notre Dame. I thought preseason they would lose to LSU, and then I thought they would A&M themselves a couple more wins somehow. But they've been phenomenal. So all due respect to Mike Elko, a much deserved contract extension. I will say it's kind of crazy how easy A&M's schedule has been in SEC terms, and yet it is still a tougher schedule than most all other teams play in the country. I mean, they played like the bottom five teams in the SEC standings wise in like Mississippi State, Florida, Arkansas, South Carolina, Auburn, and they've dodged Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, like all the best teams in the SEC. They haven't played, and they played all the worst teams, and yet they still have the best resume in college football per my system. So congrats to the Aggies, and I cannot wait to watch them go into Austin on Friday night. That game's going to be awesome. I will definitely get a game preview video out on that, and that's going to be a fun one to talk about. The number 2 team in the country is a team that I had at number 5 last week, but they jumped up 3 spots. That is the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, Ohio State, phenomenal team. Their defense is unreal. I mean, what they've been able to do this year is crazy. And I know they have a Big Ten schedule and it's not that tough, and they haven't played anyone in a while. But you know who else has a Big Ten schedule? Literally every single other team in the Big Ten. And none of them are putting up defensive numbers like Ohio State. I think Julian Sand, do I think he's perfect? No. I think a lot of people are really jumping on the bandwagon of Julian Sane and saying, wow, he's an amazing, amazing elite college football quarterback, and he's going to be so good in the NFL, and he deserves to win the Heisman, and this and that and the other. But I still don't think he's elite quite yet. I think he's great. Completion percentage to me is so important for a quarterback stat because it defines efficiency, and he is so efficient. I just don't know if I trust him to come back and win a game yet. But again, I was proved wrong by Marcel Reed. I could be proved wrong by Julian Sand. Of course, this wide receiver core is unreal. They've been much better running the ball recently than they were at the beginning of the year. That was a little bit of a concern for mine for a little bit. But if they're able to run the ball consistently, I don't know how you stop Ohio State. They're a phenomenal team, and they've got a huge game, of course, at Michigan next week. This is what I mean. The Big Ten schedule they played so far. Of course, the big one against Texas at the beginning of the year that got them a huge amount of points. I still think Texas is a really good team, so that win has a lot of merit still in my eyes. And then, of course, after that, they haven't played a single other ranked team, and they played at Illinois. I guess they were ranked at the time. And then I think Washington's ranked now. Washington, that's a good win. Washington is a good football team, and Ohio State went on the road across the country to play the Huskies in a stadium they hadn't lost in 3 years at the time, and they beat them convincingly, 24-6. That was a big win that nobody's going to remember, nobody's going to talk about, but it's important to bring it up. And then, of course, this week, if they can go on the road and beat Michigan, which they haven't been able to do in a while, hilariously, then they would pick up another huge win. That would be big for them. And, of course, it would be big for Ryan Day, too. I mean, imagine if Ohio State beat Michigan. We haven't seen it in 5 or 6 years. So, of course, if they can do that, that's great. It says they're 10-0 up here. That's a typo. They're 11-0. And they definitely have a very, very strong chance to win the national championship. They're definitely the favorites right now. And I can see why. They're a phenomenal football team. There's nothing else I can really say about Ohio State. They're great. But I will say I have seen some people saying, "Oh, everyone's saying this about Ohio State. Everyone's saying that they have a weak schedule. They barely played anybody. That they're not that good." Nobody's saying that. I mean, yes, people are saying you played a weak schedule, but they're ranked number 1 in the country. They have been all season long. They're the favorites to win the national championship, and they will be heavily favored in each of the games they will play the rest of the season. How on earth is Ohio State the victim in college football right now? I don't get it. I don't think that they are. So I don't think that Ohio State people right now have the right to go out and act like they're being victimized. They're not. You're undefeated. You have maybe the best team in college football, and you're ranked number 1. You have nothing to worry about. Just win your games, and you will win another national championship. It's literally that simple for this Ohio State team. But they do play a weak Big Ten schedule. I mean, just look at it. I mean, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, not the best teams in the world, but they've handled their business. I mean, look at how many points they've been winning these games by. So I still think they're a great team, 100%. We'll see. At Michigan, big game. The number 3 team in the country, in my opinion, is the Indiana Hoosiers. I love this team. This Indiana Hoosiers team is so awesome. They have been all season. They continue to prove people wrong all throughout Kurt Cignetti's tenure there. I've said this multiple times on the podcast, but I mean, they said Cignetti at Indiana, he's not going to do anything. He's not going to make the playoffs. His first year went 11-1, made the playoffs. Yes, he lost to Notre Dame, and yes, he lost to Ohio State the year before. So the talk of the town then was Indiana. I mean, yeah, they can win in a weak Big Ten schedule, but they can't win the big games. They can't beat the big teams on their schedule. Well, take a look at that. That is at home against Illinois to open the year, top 10 team at the time, and they won 63-10. And yes, I know Illinois is not one of the 10 best teams in college football. That's not what I'm saying. I have not had Illinois power ranked in my top 25 all season long. But that is a big game that they just clobbered Illinois in. And then the next week, they went on the road against an Iowa Hawkeyes team that is is so underrated. That Iowa team is good. And they beat them on the road 20-15. The very next week, they played at number 3 Oregon. Going into this game, everyone was talking about Oregon as a national title contender. They still are a national title contender. They're 10-1. They're a great team. They've been recruiting the heck out of players from all over the country. And Indiana went into Autzen Stadium and dominated the Oregon Ducks. I know it says 30-20 on the score. It should have been worse. They threw a pick 6, Indiana did, and they still won by 10 points on the road. So that was a huge win for Indiana that no one was thinking they were going to get. Nobody thought at the beginning of the year that Indiana would beat Penn State. And they waltzed in and had one of the craziest wins that I've seen in Big Ten football history in my existence on this planet. The argument that Indiana hasn't played anybody, I think is kind of ridiculous because just look at their schedule. They have played a lot of good teams, and they're sitting at 11-1. They're a great team. There's no way they're losing at Purdue. They will be 12-0. They will be in the Big Ten championship game, and they will have a very realistic shot to be the number 1 overall seed in the college football play. Just picture that. Picture yourself back in 2023. Indiana just went like 4-8, fired their head coach, hired the guy from James Madison, and we're about to start the 12-team playoffs. The college football video game's coming out. Everything's changing about the sport. And you're telling me that the second college football playoffs, the number 1 overall seed is going to be Indiana? That is just bonkers. And I kind of hope it happens just because it would be really, really cool for the program, for the coach who I really respect, and just because it's an underdog story for sure. So we got Indiana number 3. At number 4, I've got another SEC team, the second SEC team in these rankings, the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia is peaking at the right time for sure. In my opinion, this is the best coaching staff in college football, and I don't really think it's very much of an argument. This is not the most talented Georgia team in the world. I'm just going to say that straight up. The talent on this Georgia team is great. I mean, Zachariah Branch is crazy good. Their tight ends are so good. Oscar Delp and Lawson Leckie are the best blocking duo tight ends that I've seen in college football in a while. Well, I mean, Georgia's always had good ones that I've seen from a non-Georgia coach football team in a very long time. I'll say that. Gunnar Stockton is getting better and better. He's learning how to layer throws. He's playing with so much confidence. His fakes are so great. He's really good with his legs. This is a Georgia offense that is improving, and their defense is also improving. C.J. Allen is so good. But this Georgia team is not nearly as talented as some of the Georgia teams Kirby Smart has had in the past. And yet, their coaching staff is just squeezing every single ounce of juice out of this team. They are so well coached. They are playing so well. They're playing with so much effort in every single game. And yes, I believe if they stay healthy, this Georgia team can win the national championship as well because they're so well coached and they've got good talent. And they've had a great season. Of course, it's looked ugly at times. It has. At Tennessee, you needed overtime to win that game, and you probably maybe should have lost it. Even Kirby Smart said you should have lost that game. But it was a big win to start the year. Of course, they lost to Alabama after that, and then they beat Kentucky. They beat them pretty handedly. They struggled for sure against Auburn on the road, but found a way to win that one. They beat Ole Miss, even though they gave up 5 straight touchdowns to Lane Kiffin's offense. They beat Florida, even though they needed a questionable drop pass / completion called incompletion to win that game, but they did win it. They dominated Mississippi State. They dominated Texas. They dominated Charlotte. And now they play Georgia Tech. Playoff hopes on the line? I don't think so, but you could make the argument if they lose to Georgia Tech. There's so many 10-2 teams. Where do you put Georgia? In my opinion, they shouldn't drop out of the playoffs. But my opinion doesn't matter because I am not on the College Football Playoff Committee. And frankly, I don't even know if the College Football Playoff Committee is on the College Football Playoff Committee. It might just be a computer, but who knows? That's a conversation for a different day. And, of course, that Georgia Tech game, 3:30 Eastern Time in Atlanta on Friday, on Black Friday. That's going to be a huge game. And, I mean, just look how close these teams are, my point-wise. I mean, Indiana is just 1 point ahead of Georgia. It's so close at the top, and all of these teams play high-level opponents to end the season. So, Georgia, of course, they can still make the SEC championship game also. If they win, and I think the scenario is if either A&M or Alabama loses to Texas or Auburn, then Georgia will find themselves in the SEC championship game. And Texas A&M could sure as heck lose to Texas, and Alabama could sure as heck lose to Auburn. So Georgia, your SEC title chances are not quite gone yet. They'll be going for back-to-back SEC titles for the first time since 2020, 2021 Alabama, I believe was the last time a team won back-to-back SEC titles. So it'll be a very good achievement for Kirby Smart. At number 5, so just outside the 4 buys, I have the Oregon Ducks. Oregon just got a huge win against USC. Best win of the year, in my opinion. This is a great Oregon team. I've been impressed with their offensive line the last couple weeks and their ability to control games. I think it's been very impressive. I mean, when you can run the ball, you can own games. Like White owns Rice. So that's impressive from what I've seen from Oregon and their ability to control those games. Dante Moore has been playing really efficiently. I don't think he's got crazy downfield arm talent. He had some really good throws against USC. The one to Sadiq in the end zone was a laser, but I don't know. I haven't seen consistency from him enough to really trust him that much, to be completely honest. But who knows? We'll see. And I said USC was their best win of the season. You can clearly see that that's definitely the case. I mean, the Penn State win and the Iowa win are huge on the road against those super talented teams that got them a lot of points per my rankings. Their only loss is to a really, really good Indiana team, barely penalizing them anything. And they're just 1 point behind Georgia. They're right there. They're 10-1. They do have to play at Washington. 3:30. I think that's a 12:30 local kick. It'll be in Seattle. It's either 12:30 or 1:30. I don't remember right now. Or 12:30 or 11:30. My time zone mind. I'm in a different time zone than I usually am right now, so I'm struggling trying to figure out what time zones where with the difference and whatever. But anyway, they have to play at Washington on Saturday. Not an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. That is a huge rivalry game, and Washington is a really good team. So if Oregon loses that, they're 10-2. I don't know. You could again make the argument that they're not going to make the playoffs, but at the same time, they probably should. It's my understanding and it's my opinion that they should be in the playoffs even if they lose to Washington. But I'm also all for chaos in college football. It's really fun when things get really chaotic and no one has any idea what's going to happen. And if Washington can pull off an upset against Oregon, that might happen. Of course, I could say this, and Oregon could go on the road into Seattle and skull drug the Huskies. I don't think that'll happen, but I'm just saying, if they lose this game, if they're minus turnovers, if they can't run the ball, who knows? Who knows? But for now, I've got Oregon at number 5. Huge win against USC for sure. And if you want to hear more about that, just go check out the Instant Reactions podcast, where I broke down a lot of the games that happened on Saturday. Coming in at number 6, I got the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I know this is a lot higher than the College Football Playoff Committee has Alabama. And I get it. They're a 2-loss team. This is their resume right now. They're coming off of some unimpressive performance. They were not flattering whatsoever against South Carolina or against LSU. And they lost to Oklahoma at home. And then, of course, skull drug Eastern Illinois, but that was always going to happen. But the reason I have Alabama at number 6 in the top 6 is because of their quality wins. They have beaten Georgia on the road. That's one of, if not the best wins that any college football team has right now. The win against Vanderbilt was really, really good. Vanderbilt is an awesome college football team. They are looking so good. That game against Tennessee that they have is going to be just so massive. But as of right now, that's a big win for Alabama, beating Vandy. They went on the road and beat a really good, healthy Missouri team at the time. That was a big win for this Tide football team. They got another big win against Tennessee at home. We know how good Tennessee is. They've gotten unlucky this year. Tennessee's been a really unlucky football team, but Alabama was able to take them down. And then the wins at South Carolina and LSU. I mean, those are good wins that Alabama was able to pick up. So the reason they're this high is because of the teams that they've beaten. And I know they lost on the road to Florida State, and I know they lost to Oklahoma, but at the same time, they have some of the best wins in the country. And that is why I have Alabama this high. Of course, they are, even at this point, they're tied with Oregon. I gave Oregon the nod because I think Oregon's a better football team. But, I mean, Alabama is still in the thick of the playoff hunt. In my opinion, if they lose to Auburn, I mean, in my opinion, again, it doesn't matter. If they lose to Auburn, they're not making the playoffs. It's that straight up. If they lose to Auburn, in my opinion, I think an argument could be had, but an argument is not going to be had. They are going to get booted 100% if they lose that game. But if they win against Auburn, literally everything is still on the table for this Alabama team. They could beat Auburn and then go to the SEC championship and beat either A&M or Georgia and then be situated very nicely for a college football playoff run. Do I think that's going to happen? Not really. I think this Alabama team is really incomplete. I think their offensive line isn't exactly what they want it to be personnel-wise. Okay, of course, this is only DeBoer's second year, so he's not got all the pieces that he wants to have on that offensive line. Their front seven is really not elite either. I thought it was going to be going into this season, but their linebackers have played poor at times, and they don't get consistent pressure. So I think it's a really great testament to the coaching staff, to Kalen DeBoer, to Ryan Grubb, to Kane Womack and this Alabama coaching staff, that they've gotten them to this great record and this great season, even though they don't have the personnel that they want. So, no, I don't think Alabama's going to contend for a national title this year, but they've had a phenomenal season. They can be really, really proud of this year. I'm not trying to give up on Alabama. I'm just saying I don't think it's going to happen. But if they can beat Auburn and they could definitely win the SEC championship, they can beat anybody. If they get hot, if Ty Simpson is just cooking, and the defense is forcing turnovers in the second, their secondary is one of the best, if not the best, in college football. I mean, Xavier Brown, Dijon Lee, those corners are nasty. Bray Hubbard and Keon Sabb have been great all year, so they can beat anybody. I just don't know how consistent they're going to be in the playoffs. But they're still a great team, still a good resume. I still have them at number 6. At number 7, I've got Oklahoma. And listen, I understand, Robert. How on earth are you going to have Alabama at number 6 and Oklahoma at number 7 if they have the same record and Oklahoma beat them in Tuscaloosa? I get it. I understand. The thing is, I didn't make these rankings. I just made the system that made these rankings. So I actually went in and overrided my system in the bracket that you'll see in a moment to put Oklahoma ahead of Alabama because of that. I'm just being realistic here. But my system did have Oklahoma a little bit lower than Alabama resume points wise. And that is because they just have a little smaller amount of huge wins. I mean, of course, Oklahoma's beaten Tennessee on the road and Alabama on the road, but I mean, Alabama's also beaten Missouri on the road, and they've beaten Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma just doesn't have as caliber wins as that. Of course, if Michigan beats Ohio State, I mean, we're not going to forget that Oklahoma beat Michigan at the beginning of the year. That's still a big win. If Michigan proves that they're an elite Big Ten team, Oklahoma will also get credited for that because they beat Michigan. But again, this Oklahoma season has been phenomenal. I mean, who would have guessed that Oklahoma would have made playoffs? Me is the answer. I would have guessed that. Even though I've been wrong about like almost everything this year, I was right about Oklahoma making the playoffs. So I'll take that. If they can beat LSU, let's not sleep on the LSU Tigers. This is still another talented team. A lot of those guys are going to be playing their last game in those sweet purple and gold jerseys. So LSU definitely has a chance to pull off this upset. I don't think it's going to happen. It's on the road. It's at 3:30, but it could. Again, let's not cross any possibilities out at this point because it's college football. Literally anything can happen. Can Oklahoma make noise in the college football playoffs? If they keep forcing turnovers, then yes, 100%. In their last 3 games, they've dominated the turnover battle. They've beaten Tennessee, Alabama, and Missouri without having more total yards than any of those opponents. And John Mateer's not necessarily playing a lead out there, but they're winning football games. So I really respect what this Oklahoma coaching staff's been able to do. I really like this Oklahoma team. I like their defense a lot. We'll see if they can put together more consistency offensively, but they got a huge game against LSU. I'm excited to see what happens in that one. At number eight in the college football rankings, I got BYU. I know, I understand. Again, BYU's 11-1, or not 11-1. They're 10-1. Texas Tech is 10-1. Texas Tech skull drugged BYU. Why is BYU ahead of them? Well, I just think BYU has better wins, and that's not what I think. That's what my system thinks. And I mean, they've won on the road at Colorado. That's not an easy. I mean, of course, Colorado isn't a great team, but winning on the road in college football is the hardest thing to do. Like, legitimately, it is. And BYU has been so good on the road. They find a way to scratch out these wins. They won in 2 overtimes against Arizona on the road. They barely won against Utah. It's backyard's making weird noises, but that happens. It happens. I mean, it's Atlanta. They won at Iowa State. They really cleared Iowa State. And then no one is going to talk about their wins over TCU and Cincinnati. Like, those are just completely flying over people's heads that BYU dominated a solid TCU team and then just completely out-physicaled a really physical Cincinnati team. But I give credit to those games 100% because they're huge wins for anybody, and especially for BYU. This is a team that is in a little bit of a sticky situation because if they beat UCF, I believe they seal themselves a spot in the Big 12 championship game. But if they lose that, then they might miss the playoffs, which is unfortunate because they've had a great season. But if they lose that, I mean, the committee has made it clear that they're not going to punish teams for playing in their conference championship games. But are you really going to put 11-2 BYU over, let's say, I don't know, 10-2 Vandy? Like, what are we going to do there? There's scenarios that are going to play out that BYU might not make the playoffs. But if they take care of business, if they beat UCF and they beat Tech in the Big 12 championship, then they're in no matter what. So everything is still in front of this BYU Cougars team. I love Bear Bachmeier. I love this coaching staff at BYU. I think they've been doing a great job. I think Kalani Sitake is the name of their coach. It might be Sataki. I'm not whatever national whatever he is, with all due respect. I don't really know how to pronounce his name, but this BYU team is really fun to watch. I was cheering for him against Cincinnati. Do I think they can win a national championship? No. Straight up, there's no way BYU is winning the national championship. But they've had one of the best seasons that any team has had this year. And they had a great season last year. So this BYU Cougars team and this program is here to stay in the 12-team college football playoff era. At number 9, I've got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who just committed a mass murdering of Syracuse. And they've been committing a mass murdering of the ACC ever since they lost to Miami and Texas A&M. And they've been so good. This Notre Dame team is amazing. This is an amazing, spectacular football team. I think CJ Carr, I don't think he's all the way there yet. I think that he's still young. He still has not seen as many reps as he will have seen at the end of his football career. So he still isn't the best at reading coverages. He gets beat a lot of times by the rat defender, who is the defender that is just sort of unmarked in zone coverage and can just sort of roll around and make plays. And I don't think CJ Carr, I don't think he's all the way there. But his receivers are getting so good. Malachi Fields is like the best X receiver that Notre Dame has had in so long. He can go up and make plays like anybody else in college football, other than maybe Jeremiah Smith. Hey, Malachi Fields is so good. Jordan Faison is so much fun to watch. He's so good in open space. Good luck tackling that guy. Good luck tackling Eli Raridan. I mean, that guy's what, like 6'6", 250 pounds, and breaks tackles all the time, and is somehow athletic enough to flip his hips and high point footballs. Eli Raridan is one of the best tight ends in college football. And this Notre Dame offense is dynamic, not because just the passing game, which I've described, but because of Jeremiah Love, the most dynamic football player in the sport right now, other than anybody in the NFL, of course. In college football, he's the most dynamic player in college football. And this Notre Dame offensive line is great. And I think the coolest Notre Dame video I've seen this season is the Pitt touchdown run where he made that spin move. If you've seen the game, you know what I'm talking about. Literally, CJ Carr handed the ball off to Jeremiah Love. He found the gap, and before the spin move, CJ Carr just put his hands up for a touchdown. He just knew. He knew that Jeremiah Love was going to make the safety miss and run 50 yards to the end zone for a touchdown. And this Notre Dame that's the best run defense in the country, in my opinion, that Notre Dame has. You're always going to have that with Marcus Freeman at your head coach, former linebacker. They're going to be gap sound. And their secondary has gotten better at tackling. We'll see what they do against more elite competition, because this is the competition that they've had so far after the Miami and Texas A&M games. It's not been elite at any stretch of the imagination. But also, they haven't had any freebie games. Like the easiest, the worst team that Notre Dame has played so far this season is probably Navy or Boston College or Syracuse. And Boston College and Syracuse are ACC teams, and Navy is like tied for second in the American and has realistic college football playoff implications in their next couple games. So Notre Dame's schedule, I mean, you can argue all they want that they don't have a strength or a high strength of schedule, but they don't schedule Eastern Illinois. They don't schedule Charlotte. They don't schedule Samford. They don't have any of those free wins on their schedule. But 9-2, they've won 9 in a row. They're the hottest team in college football, and they are balling. And yes, I believe they have realistic national title chances. At number 10, I've got Ole Miss. The Ole Miss Rebels. They fell a little bit in this week's rankings just because they didn't play anybody, so they didn't get any chance to improve their standing. But Ole Miss is a phenomenal team. They're so well coached. I know all the talk right now is on Lane Kiffin. I'm not trying to talk about the Lane Kiffin situation right now, but this is a great Ole Miss team. They are really well coached. Trinidad Chambliss is, in my opinion, the most fun player to watch in college football. He's dynamic. He's a great player, and their wide receivers are explosive. They're not going to just toast you down the field, but they can make one-on-one catches. They can high point footballs, and they can make you pay after the catch for sure. They're starting to run the ball really, really well with Kwan Lacey. If you don't believe me, watch the Florida game. And their defense, to me, has been the most shocking aspect of why this team has been elite. And, I mean, I didn't think their defense was going to be all that this year. And they have gone out. I mean, just look at some of these games that they've played. They held an LSU defense or an LSU offense that's been really up and down to just 19 points. Of course, they gave up 43 to Georgia, but they played good against Oklahoma. They played great against South Carolina, and they played pretty good against Florida. So I'm not saying this is an elite defense, but it's better than what I thought it was going to be. But I have them at number 10. They're 10-1. You got to ask yourself the question, what if Mississippi State wins the Egg Bowl? What if the Bulldogs pull this one off? Because if they do, it could eliminate Ole Miss from playoff contention. It very well could. And I'm not saying that it will, I'm just saying, once again, it's a possibility. It is a very realistic possibility. It'd be unfortunate because it's been a great season for Ole Miss. But if they can't take care of business, I'm just saying it could happen. You never know. And that's going to be a huge game. It's a noon kickoff, 11 o'clock local time on Black Friday. I think it's on ABC. So I will be tuned in. That'll be a super fun game to watch. I think Ole Miss will win. But hey, it's college football. It's the Egg Bowl. It's one of the nastiest rivals in the SEC. We'll see what happens. At number 11, I've got the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Texas Tech is a great football team. They can run the ball really well. Their skill position players are phenomenal. Their running backs, Dickey, and then number 8 might be Dickey. I forget. Dickey, and then their other back, running back, I think he's either 8 or 24. Those guys are explosive. They're so good. They will make you miss. They will outrun you. The running backs are dynamic. I don't think Baron Morton is an elite quarterback. But I think he's been injured a lot this year. Maybe when healthy, he'll take steps forward. But, I mean, if I just look at some of the games he's played, against Utah, he did not play great. Got hurt in that game. And then I just haven't really seen an elite quarterback game from Baron Morton so far. He was hurt against Kansas State. They ran the ball really well in that game. Against BYU, he didn't really have to do very much. And I didn't watch any of the UCF game, but it was just UCF. But, I mean, the thing that makes this Texas Tech team so great is their defense. And just look at the amount of points that they've given up this year. They haven't given up more than 22 points in a single game this season, or 26 points, rather, in a single game this season. So they play a lot of 4-3. They play a lot of 3-4. They take away the run because they're big and they're physical up front, and then they can get fantastic pass rush. They have a couple of the best pass rushers in the sport. And, I mean, they're so good there. Their secondary didn't even be that great. So I really liked what I've seen from Texas Tech. I think they could line up and compete with high-level SEC teams and high-level Big Ten teams, which is something I didn't think I was going to say about the Red Raiders this year. But Joey McGuire's done a great job taking the budget and all the money that the Texas Tech boosters have put into their program, and he's assembled a dynamite roster that should win the Big 12 and could make noise in the college football playoffs. That's so I got at number 11. At number 12, I've got the Vanderbilt Commodores. They are the most under-talked about, underappreciated team in college football right now. Vandy is balling. I mean, just look at what they've done recently. I know. This is the story of the season for Vanderbilt. They started out hot. They were 5-0, lost to Alabama, but then they beat LSU and they beat Missouri on College Game Day. And then the talk of the town going into this week was their game on the road at Texas. It was a huge game. It was like the biggest game in the SEC that week. And they fell. They went down 34-31, only lost by 3 points, tried to come back and win that game, but came up just short. And after that loss, no one talked about them. Like, they just completely went black. No one wanted to talk about Vanderbilt. And then they went out and had just two of the best offensive performances that we've seen from an SEC team this season, with wins against Auburn and Kentucky, two good defenses. So, yes, I think that Vandy right now could make the playoffs. If they beat Tennessee on the road, that is a huge game. And if Vandy can win it, in my opinion, they're in. So that's what Vandy's got in front of them, which is everything. This Vandy team, of course, their offense is great. Diego Pavia's been on another planet this year, at least in the last couple games. I think that they're at their best when they can run the ball effectively, and then Pavia can sort of use his arm to support that run game, not when their offense is just entirely Diego Pavia. But their skill position players have really stepped up this year. Trey Richardson's been dynamic. Eli Stowers has been one of the best tight ends in the sport. And the Vanderbilt offensive line, it's big and it's good. But to me, the main concerns are on defense. I don't think that they have the best front seven in the world. Their secondary has gotten torched a little bit this year. To me, their defense is very inconsistent. Their offense is very consistent. So that's sort of what we got going on with Vanderbilt. I mean, they can win. Like, we've seen them win games 17-10 against Missouri, and then we've seen them win games 45-38 in overtime against Auburn. So they can do it dirty either way. And if they make the playoffs, I mean, I don't want to bet against Diego Pavia. Personally, I don't. I love the guy, and I think that he's an absolute baller. So I want to see Vanderbilt in the playoffs, and in my opinion, they control their own destiny. Of course, once again, I'm not on the college football playoff committee, so it's not up to me. But if Vanderbilt beats Tennessee, I would 100% put them in the playoffs. It would be their best win of the year, and it would, to me, garner them even more respect than they already have. At number 13, I've got Michigan. The Michigan Wolverines picked up a big win against Maryland. Of course, that was sort of an appetizer for the main entree of Ohio State next week. But if they win that game, I think they need Oregon to lose to Washington to make the Big Ten championship, but I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to go check on that in a second. But this Michigan team is good. Of course, they haven't really played it. Like, who here has watched a Michigan game fully after the USC game? I was really excited about the USC game, so I watched a lot of that game. I barely watched any of the Michigan-Washington game. I didn't even look at the TV once for Michigan State, Michigan Purdue, Michigan Northwestern, or Michigan Maryland. So when they play Ohio State this Saturday, and I'll watch some film on them before that game so I can get a game prediction out. But that game is going to be like the first game that I've sat down and actually watched Michigan play in a long time. But from what I remember from Michigan, is that Bryce Underwood is dynamic. They can run the ball really well. He can make plays with his legs, both as a runner and as a passer. And their offensive line is good. And their defensive line, their pass rush is scary. That's how they were able to dominate Nebraska. It's just they need people to step up from the wide receiver position, especially against Ohio State. Donovan McCulley is going to need to play well in that game. And then they're going to need just some hero plays from Bryce Underwood, and their defense is going to have to stop the run and try and contain the big plays from Ohio State. I think it's realistic. Of course, I mean, Michigan, if they go 10-2 with a win over Ohio State, you'd think they would maybe make the playoffs. But there's just going to be a traffic jam of 10-2 teams, or at least there could be, if some of these teams win. If Vanderbilt wins, if Michigan wins, if Georgia loses, that would give Georgia Tech a 10-2 record. Georgia would be 10-2. There's a scenario where there's like 7 or 8 10-2 teams that are all trying to get the last couple spots. And who gets it? That's up for the committee to decide. But I've got Michigan sitting right here at number 13. At number 13. At number 14, I've got Utah. They played one of the best games all season long last week, yesterday against Kansas State at home. That was a crazy game that Utah was barely able to pull out. They've also won at West Virginia. They've won at UCLA. They've won at Baylor. These are just road wins that count for a lot of points because they're road wins. But, I mean, Utah's best win is, I guess, at Baylor. And they had a couple opportunities to get bigger wins against BYU on the road and Texas Tech at home. They just came up short mainly because of their offense. I think their offense is very inconsistent. I mean, just look at the last 4 weeks. They put up 53 points, 45 points, 55 points, and 51 points. But in their losses, they put up 10 points and 21 points. So I don't think Devin Dampier, I don't even really know how to pronounce his first name. I don't think Dampier is the most elite quarterback in college football. I think he's a great athlete. He's a great football player. But I don't think he's got a lot of great arm talent, not a lot of great arm strength. This Utah defense is very up and down also. I mean, I think Kansas State had 472 rushing yards yesterday. So if they keep playing like that, they're not going to play well the rest of the year. But if they beat Kansas, they're 10-2 again. Like, how many 10-2 teams are we going to have this year? There's going to be so many. But I've got them at number 14. We know Texas is not going to be 10-2. They're 8-3 right now. Of course, they have a huge game against Texas A&M. People have been talking about, can Texas make the playoffs if they beat A&M? I mean, I would like to think that they would deserve to with the win over the team with the best resume so far this year. Their losses are to Ohio State and Georgia on the road. You tell me who's beating Ohio State and Georgia on the road. I know Alabama's done the latter this year, but I would not pick Alabama to beat Ohio State on the road. And then, of course, the loss at Florida's bad, but you have a win over Oklahoma. You won against Vanderbilt, and if you also win against A&M, like Texas had a really tough schedule this year. And if they can go 9-3, they've got an argument. But you know who else has an argument? 10-2 Utah, 10-2 Michigan with a win over Ohio State, 10-2 Vandy, who's got some big wins. Some other teams. I mean, what if Ole Miss loses? I mean, there could be so many teams that have a statement, that have an argument to make the playoffs, and we don't really know what's going to happen. At number 16, I have Miami right behind Texas. Another team that could go 10-2 with a win over Notre Dame. Like, there are so many teams that are going to bottleneck right there. It's going to be like a huge traffic jam for the last 2 spots in the college football playoffs if things don't just work itself out. I mean, obviously, Miami could lose, Texas could lose, Utah could lose, and none of this really matters. Michigan could lose. But just what if it happens where all the 9-2 teams win and all the 10-1 teams lose, and we just have, boom, traffic jam where nothing makes sense? It could happen. Of course, Miami's got to play at Pittsburgh this week. That's a big game. Miami can't make the ACC championship game, or they can if some crazy stuff happens. They probably won't. And if they beat Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh's eliminated. Pittsburgh wins that game, and either SMU or, what's the other team? Virginia loses. The Pittsburgh's in the ACC championship game. Miami probably won't make it, but if they win this game, they can maybe get an at-large bid. Who knows? There's again just so much that is left to happen in this college football season. Georgia Tech, you would assume, probably eliminated. But what if they beat Georgia? What if they do it? I know they have two bad losses to Pitt and at NC State, and they don't really have a really good win on their resume. But what if they pick one up? What if they upset Georgia? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But what if it does? What if they pull this off? There's a chance. That's why we play the games, folks. That's why we play the games. And if they do, they're 10-2 with a win over a 10-2 Georgia. Are you really going to put Georgia over Georgia Tech if Georgia Tech beat them head to head? I would, but I don't think the committee's going to. And if you're putting Georgia Tech over Georgia, then you're putting them over all the teams that Georgia would be over. So there's just so much chaos that could happen. So like the rest of the way in this season. At 18, I got Virginia. If they win against Virginia Tech, they are in the ACC championship game. And if they win that, they are in the playoffs. So Virginia is one of the only teams that I talked about in the last 15 minutes that has a straight and arrow path to the playoffs. If they win out, they're in, which is crazy that Virginia controls their own destiny of all teams. But they could do it. And shout out to that coaching staff and Chandler Morris for pulling that off. So after all of that, after all those rankings, after all those numbers and everything else and resumes and whatnot, it all boils down to this. My playoff bracket right now, let me take that part away. There you can fully see it. As you can see, I put Oklahoma at number 6 and Alabama at number 7 because Oklahoma beat them head to head. I'm respecting head to head. But we got A&M with the number 1 overall seed. Ohio State, Indiana, and Georgia getting the other 3 byes. So those are the 4 teams that have a bye. Of course, all this is going to shake up when Week 14 is over and when championship weekend is over. I've got Oregon at number 5 hosting North Texas. North Texas is my group of 5 team right now. I think North Texas is phenomenal. I think they could definitely pull it off. I think the American champion should make it in over James Madison just because of strength of schedule. What do I got next? At number 6, I got Oklahoma playing Miami. That'd be an awesome game. Miami go to Norman to take on the Sooners. Miami's in just because they're the highest ranked ACC team. I know that's a caveat because they're probably not going to win the ACC championship game. They need to beat Pittsburgh, and they need to have SMU and Virginia lose, I think is what they need to happen. I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what needs to happen. And if they do that, I mean, I guess they can make the spot as the ACC champion. But if SMU wins and they win the ACC, and let's just say that, then Miami has to have an at-large bid. Can they get an at-large bid? We'll see. Alabama plays Ole Miss. That would be an awesome game. These 2 SEC teams have not played in the regular season, so that would be fun to watch. Notre Dame would go at BYU. Catholics versus Mormons. That would be fun to watch. I think Notre Dame would just bludgeon BYU, but it'd be an interesting dynamic over there. And that would be it for the first round matchups. But just look at these potential second round matchups we could have. We could be looking at Oregon versus Georgia. Dan Lanning taking on his former team. That'd be awesome. We could have a rematch between Notre Dame and Texas A&M. That would be phenomenal. That was one of the best games of the year early in the season. We would get to see the rematch. We could have Oklahoma versus Indiana battle the Crimson and Cream teams. And I think that'd be a great defensive game. We could have Alabama versus Ohio State. I mean, battle of the Titans there, recruiting wise and just program wise. Maybe the 2 best programs the sport has seen the last couple years, or the last 10 years, let's just say. And I mean, this would set us up for an awesome tournament. I'm not saying this is what it's going to look like. This is just what it looks like right now. I mean, A&M, the number 1 team, still to play Texas. Ohio State still to play Michigan, and then if they win that, the Big Ten championship. Indiana still to play in the Big Ten championship. Georgia has to play Georgia Tech, and then maybe the SEC championship game. Bama still to play Auburn. Notre Dame, well, they just have to play Stanford. But I mean, my point is, there's so many teams that have to play these big games, and the season is not over yet. And I'm excited. I am really excited to watch the rest of the year. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. With that, if there's one thing you take away from this video, it is not that Ohio State should be number 2. It is not that North Texas should be in the playoffs. It's not anything about college football. It is that God loves you, and God is real, and God wants nothing more than for you to love Him back. And if you just give Him even a thought, even a whisper of your time, or even anything, He will love you, and He will be so happy. And I heard one thing that was really interesting from my aunt today. She said she was talking to someone that said they didn't believe in God, and she told him that's okay because He believes in you, and He will wait for you, and He will be patient, and He will be there for whenever you are ready for Him. And of course, the devil is real too. I mean, that is a very real thing. We're fighting him each and every day. But we're not alone in that fight. God gives us the people around us because he knows that they will love us. And he knows that in whichever weird way, they will help us bring us closer to him. And I just pray that that me and everyone else watching this has patience this holiday season, has courage this holiday season, and just feels God's presence more in their life throughout the next month and a half. So with that, thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to this point, that is awesome. You're an absolute legend. And I hope you have a great Thanksgiving week. And God bless. And I'll see y'all later.